Krishna 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 Hey, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna 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 Hey, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Rakshamam, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Pahimam, Rama Raghava Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. So, seems like such a long time ago last week for me. I don't know where all the time's gone. But it was a very nice discussion from what I remember. And we were just speaking about how Krishna had convinced everyone to perform the Govardhan Puja, and they did exactly according to his directions, and they circumambulated the hill, and they cooked all the food and offered it to Govardhan hill, and then Krishna manifested a giant form, another Krishna, second Krishna from the Govardhan hill, who ate all of the offerings, and they cooked again because he said, in fact, he roared, Anior, Anior, which means I want more. So they had to cook again. And then Balaram said, put a tulsi leaf on the offering, and he was satisfied with that. Then we read about how Indra, witnessing all of this, was extremely furious. And Krishna had set this all up just to infuriate him, just to teach him a lesson, because he thought he was in a better position than Krishna. He had forgotten that Krishna had just incarnated, especially to perform his pastimes and to protect the world, Mother Earth. So Krishna is going to retaliate. Indra said that he was criticizing Krishna in one way, but in another way he was glorifying him indirectly also. Yeah. So that was where we finished our discussion. Does anyone else remember anything that was particularly interesting last week? Okay, so let's read from "It is indicated here" in that paragraph in chapter 25. So Jay Prakash Prabhu can start us off.
Hare Krishna, everybody. It is indicated here that in the villages or outside the towns, the inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When King Indra ordered the Samvartaka and companion clouds to go to Vrindavan, the clouds were afraid of doing this mischief. But King Indra assured them, "You go ahead and I will also go riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punishing the inhabitants of Vrindavan."
So this is kind of, there's a nice instruction in here about taking care of cows. What is the impact of not taking care of cows? This is explained here, right? Did anyone pick that point out? What's the result of not looking after cows?
There wouldn't be any prosperity if there is no cows. So it doesn't mean that you look after the cows, doesn't mean that you build a shed and give the grass to the cows. They need love and care as well. So my understanding is that when you take care of cow means you go and kind of be with them, stroke them, sit with them. So this is all part of loving and love of cows. So if that is not there wouldn't be a prosperity in that area or temple or village or wherever it is. So it's not just like you have a cow and just give him a bundle of hay and that's looking after cow. But it's just a bit more than that. You know, you take care of the cow as you would take care of your own children.
Mm. So, you know, a modern person might say that if we factory farm cows, if we, you know, yield lots of milk from them, give them lots of injections and, you know, medicine to increase the milk, then that's very profitable for us, right? They would have that point of view. So for someone like that to read this, they would probably disagree, isn't it? Yeah. So because this says the opposite. This says if you look after the cows, you love them, you nourish them. When they stop giving milk, you know, protect them for the rest of their lives. Then you'll get all opulence. Then you'll get all kinds of opulence. Yeah. So practically speaking, how can we present that to someone who has, like, you know, a different kind of thinking? Because that's the modern worldview, isn't it? That you know, you pack cows in and you make as much profit as you can from them, and then when they're no good, then cow slaughter. Yeah, you continue making profit in that way. So how do we show them? How do we explain this otherwise? Any thoughts on that?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We can say that the cow is like a mother because it produces milk, and with the milk you can do so many foodstuffs and a lot of food products like yogurt and stuff like that, cheese, and so without, and gives you, if you want to look at it in a different way, gives you a lot of calcium as well. So without the cow, you would not have anything like that. And when the mother stops feeding the child, the next thing is going to go on to the cow's milk. So the cow is very important.
So that's accepted, that we keep lots of cows, but the standard of looking after cows now is different to the standard that used to be there, you know, in olden times. So people are keeping cows, but they're not looking after them to a high standard. But here it says when you look after the cows to a high standard, then you get all opulences, all kinds of opulence. Yeah. So how is that? How would we explain that? I'll take notes from anyone. I don't know the answer. What do you think? Could it be that if you look after the cows better, then what would happen? You might get more milk.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I think you would. If you go to ISKCON Goshalas, you will find that the cows are really protected and looked after. So when you look at those cows, and when you look the street straight cows, or you know, you look the cow farm cows, you will see. I mean, for me, when I usually go to India, and if I go to Goshalas, and when you go and feed them bananas or everything, you can see, and you can actually, it's difficult to explain, but you can actually feel the mercy coming. You can literally feel the mercy. And I think, especially in Govardhan Eco Village, they just got this thing that everybody goes and spends time with the cow, and they've got like really nice brushes where they brush the cow hair, and they sit, you know, stroke the cow, and it's a way of stroking the cow. So you know, you can feel the mercy. It's just like, you know, you can feel the blessings coming from them when you look after the cows nicely. So in that form of cow, even in Mayapur, I remember years ago, we were allowed to go and feed bananas, and you know, it's just a nice feeling to go and do that. you can feel it from their eyes that, you know, there's some sort of mercy coming, you know. It's my, like, you know, my experience with the cows. And I think a lot of people do experience that sort of thing, you know, the cows.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, if the cows are loved and they're cared for, they actually feel happy when you deal with them. They actually have a, you know, very pleasant, creates a very pleasant environment. Not only that, the milk is very nourishing. They give more milk. And not only that, the milk is very nourishing, you know. Like in our philosophy in Krishna consciousness, depending on the attitude that you have when you do something, that attitude, it permeates the result of what you do, you know. And people see that with very practical ways. You know, if you cook food and you're in a bad mood, it doesn't taste great, you know. It's amazing. People go to restaurants so much, you know, and you know the people who are cooking there at these different restaurants, they're only cooking because they're getting paid for it, you know, and they have to put so many spices and so many flavorings and so many artificial things in the food, you know, and to create such an environment around the restaurant to make it look very nice and, you know, very attractive, you know. But if you just took that food and put it in a takeaway box and went home, it wouldn't taste very good. I think we may have had that experience, right? You could go to the best restaurant and then, you know, that food is never going to taste. But they make such an environment, create such an environment that, you know, make it, you forget about what you're actually eating. You know, you get involved in conversation, and you know the food is actually not very nutritious or healthy. So that's well known. So coming back to, you know, just the example of the cows, if you look after the cows, they will give better milk. Whereas if you have these kind of factory farm cows, you look in the eyes of these cows, if you ever see these videos, they're horrific, you know, they look fearful and scared, and they're giving milk out of fear. And then we're drinking that milk. So what kind of impact does that have on our consciousness? Yeah. Not only that, they don't give so much milk, only by, you know, force they give milk. So Krishna is saying here that when the cows are looked after, then you get more opulence. The cows give more milk, and that is actually the opulence of the cow. That's actually beneficial for the farmer. But they don't use these, what we say, mode of goodness. They don't use these mode of goodness methods. They use mode of passion or mode of ignorance, yeah, methods. And so all opulences are destroyed. It's bad not only for the cows, it's bad for the land, you know, because they have to produce all of these different chemicals, all these different things are invested in the land. Bad for the cows, it's bad for the land, it's bad for the environment. So anyway, a lot of things can be said. It's quite a strong point to start on. But even the clouds here, Indra sends the clouds. He's the Lord of the rain, as well as the Lord of heaven. Indra, you know, even in the Greek mythology, they have this idea that there's the King of Heaven. You know, even in the Greek tradition, yeah, Zeus. His name is Zeus in the Greek, and even he is the King of Heaven, and he's holding a thunderbolt just like Indra. So you see these different parallels in different traditions. Huh? And even the clouds that he's sending, the clouds themselves are afraid. The clouds themselves are afraid because they know that this is a place where the cows are protected. We don't want to go to a place where cows are protected and attack the people who are looking after the cows. So that's also very interesting, isn't it? The clouds themselves. So we know in our philosophy in Krishna consciousness, everything has personality, everything has form, everyone. There's a living being behind every feature in nature. So even these clouds, they not even in the spiritual world, but in the material world, these clouds, you know, they have that personality to them. Yeah. So even those clouds were afraid. And Indra is trying to convince them here. You know, I'll go with you on my elephant, my Airavata. Yeah. And encourage you to attack Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Satyanarayana Prabhu.
Very well. Yeah, I was thinking about cow protection because normally people think cow protects means just to protect cow, but
Mm.
that includes whole agriculture actually. That's what it means. And when it includes whole agriculture, all living in entity depend on agriculture, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really nice point, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Like, if you center the whole agriculture around cows, if we are more cow conscious, then everything else in nature will fall into place. When you try and exploit the mother cow, then it means you have to exploit the whole of the rest of the nature.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And also, when you said earlier on, if you cook food in a bad mood or something like you said, I don't know exactly what word you use.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you offer to Krishna, but Krishna even won't accept that. And that's why it doesn't taste nice. You said that
Mm.
it won't taste nice because Krishna doesn't accept that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And if Krishna accepts, then it becomes prasad and it tastes
Yeah.
nice.
Prasadam can only taste nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste nice.
Yeah.
Then Krishna doesn't accept it. Wow. Okay, let's continue then. Jaikashru.
Ordered by King Indra, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vrindavan and began to pour water incessantly. With all their strength and power, there was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe wind, and incessant falling of rain. The rain seemed to fall like piercing sharp arrows, by pouring water as thick as pillars without cessation. The clouds gradually filled all the lands in Vrindavan with water. There was no visible distinction between higher and lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vrindavan began to tremble from the severe cold. Unable to find any other source of deliverance, they all approached Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows, especially being much aggravated from the heavy rains, bowed down their heads and taking their calves underneath their bodies. They approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, you are all powerful and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Please protect us who have been much harassed by angry Indra.
Very dramatic scenes now. Okay, so all the action has started. What has Krishna done? Krishna's given all Indra's food to Govardhan Hill, and now Indra's getting angry. So very dramatic scene now. Constant lightning and thunder, severe winds. Yeah, incessant falling of rain, and the rain is like sharp arrows. Have you ever felt like that? When it's really heavy rain. I experienced in India when there's like monsoon. Huh? Have you ever been in the rain where it actually just like hits you and it hurts? Huh? Have you ever experienced that? Anyone?
Yeah, we have in Mayapur.
Mayapur, yeah.
Yeah, we went to Mother River Ganga, and we had to do some ceremony because my brother-in-law passed away in Nairobi.
Oh.
And my sister brought ashes here. I told her to bring that ashes here because my brother-in-law wanted to visit Mayapur, and he told me that he will come here and we'd go together or we meet in Mayapur, something like that. But before that, he passed away. So he never made it. So thinking that, I told my sister to bring ashes here and we go to Mayapur and we put ashes in a Ganga because it was his wish to go there, And when we went there, weather was perfect, no problem at all. And thing is, we had my mother-in-law with us, so we had to get into the boat to go a little bit further for ceremony, And my mother-in-law was having a problem climbing to go into the boat.
But, yeah.
So we were looking for a lower, what do you call it, shallow, you know.
Mm.
So we wasted like few minutes, and within few minutes, there was like a hurricane, a very strong wind, bringing all the sand and some small stones, and the stones were hitting on our body. And out of our group, I was one in a dhoti and just chadar because I had to perform the ceremony, you know, participate in the ceremony.
Yeah.
And then
So what happened? We just kept away from the river a little bit, and the priest we had, he had, because he was local, you know, residents. So he said, hold each other's hand and sit down. Don't stand. Otherwise, wind will take you away, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a trick. Hold each other's hand and sit down. So that what happens doing that, you got a good strength, you know.
Mm.
That's what we did. And in about maybe 10, 15 minutes, anyway, everything over within half an hour, and it calmed down.
because that was like snowball coming on and hitting you on the back.
And local people said, oh, that's okay, because that comes and goes. Because they're used to, you know.
So within just a few moments, the weather changed, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
You got a taste of the Indra
Very
experience.
quick, like no
Yeah,
warning,
it was like that.
no chance, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then we went just on the main road and the nearest shop, and I bought a couple of gamchas and just dry myself, and you know,
Gauranga.
yeah.
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 Then send everybody back to the temple, and we just
We
two of us
just
stayed
we
to do the
just
ceremony.
three of us went again and finished ceremony instead of everyone is there, yeah. And when we went back to temple, some devotees who knew we went to Mother Ganga for this ceremony. They were just waiting for us because they were so worried, you know.
Chanting.
And they were chanting for us as well.
Oh, okay.
Good experience.
Yeah, I've also been in Mayapur when it's that heavy kind of rain,
Yeah,
and when it hits you, it actually feels like
yeah,
really sharp, you know, sharp.
yeah.
It's like,
just
you
constant.
know, cricket ball. It fits to us like, you know, cricket ball is hitting us on the back.
Because if it's just rain, it's okay. But this is rain and very, very heavy wind together.
Mm. You got a little experience of this, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, heavy rain, severe wind,
So that's
like
what-
feeling like sharp arrows,
Yeah.
as thick
Yeah.
as pillars, and severe cold. These are the descriptions. This is the dangerous clouds of Indra. This is what Samvartika means. Yeah. These are like the clouds of destruction.
Mm.
So Indra has, you know, just like Krishna has different kinds of cows, Indra has different kinds of clouds. Some clouds are nice, and some clouds are not so nice. Of course, Krishna's cows are all nice.
Yeah.
Some are nice, and some are very, very nice.
Mm.
And Krishna even has his favorite cows, you know. So the other thing here is that they pray to Krishna. Yeah, because all of this is happening and they're becoming afraid, so they pray to Krishna. Who else can they go to? Because Krishna is the one who told them to do all this. So now they're coming to Krishna and asking for his guidance. They're praying for his protection. So on one hand, they don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, isn't it? We know that from reading Krishna book for so many weeks. They don't think of Krishna as God, do they? Is that right? Or do they think of Krishna as God?
No.
No, I don't think they thought Krishna is God, but, but they knew Krishna is powerful.
Yes.
Understand.
Because he's been killing all the demons.
By his some activities, powerful activities.
That's right. So
Pastimes.
in the commentary for this in the Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our acharyas, he states that they were remembering at this time when Krishna was he had his naming ceremony. Do you remember who does Krishna's naming ceremony? Who is the priest?
Is it Garga Muni?
Yeah, so Garga Muni, he gives Krishna his naming ceremony. He's a priest who is an expert in reading the horoscope and in reading the astrology. And he says that Krishna will protect you from many dangers. That was in the horoscope. And he is as powerful as Narayan. So these words came to their mind when they were in fear and danger. So they always went to Krishna because they thought of the words of Garga Muni. So they never thought Krishna as God, but they just remembered those words and they thought, okay, let's go to Krishna. He'll help us. He'll protect us in times of danger. So that was actually their approach was like that, rather than approaching Krishna as God. Okay, so maybe Smita Mataji can read next.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pieces of ice and strong winds. Although all this was out of season, Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, this demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the supreme Lord all over, and I shall thus take away his false prestige, which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or another, he has become puffed up with material power, and thus is now maddened. I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of this false prestige. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vrindavan, who are at present completely dependent on my mercy and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I must save them by my mystic power.
Okay, so what's happening in this paragraph, everyone? So Krishna's heard their prayer, yeah, and what's happening now? What's been described?
Krishna is making his plan how to save his devotees and how to give a lesson to Indra.
Yes, Mataji, that's right. Krishna is making his plan. Yeah. So what's amazing about Srimad Bhagavatam, when you think about the different scriptures of the world in general, we can understand from them that these are some of the qualities of God. This is some of the activities of God. This is some of the names of God. This is some of the instructions of God. Here in Srimad Bhagavatam, we're getting the thoughts of God, even what is unspoken. Yeah?
Yeah.
So generally when you interact with someone, you can gather all of these different things, but you cannot gather what they are thinking, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But Srimad Bhagavatam is such a sacred scripture, such a special scripture, that we even get from there what Krishna is thinking. How does God think? We know what God looks like, we know what his names are, what his place is. So many different descriptions, all wonderful. But the most confidential thing is what Krishna is thinking. Yeah. So how does Krishna think? Now that we've read that, What do you think?
He's thinking that he wants to protect his devotees of Vrindavan, and he wants to somehow put Indra back to his place.
His rightful place, yeah, that's right. And he wants to protect his devotees. So sometimes when we hear this pastime, if it's not taught to us properly, it may just come across as like a power struggle, a power battle. This god is battling with this god thinks he's better than that god, Sometimes it's described that way actually. Some of the reciters of Bhagavatam, those who are not authorized in the Bhagavatam's teachings to speak, they make these points that, it's just like a power battle. Is that really what's going on? Is it just Krishna wants to show how powerful he is, Indra wants to show how powerful he is, and these poor residents of Vrindavan are just suffering because of that? It can come across that way. One might think that.
Well, what happens? Krishna, all demigods are also employed by Krishna, aren't they? Right? And Krishna gives them power to do the job, appropriate.
Yes.
But when they misuse the power, and they are blinded by that power,
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I can do. At that time, they knew, but they forget that where it's coming from. It's coming from Krishna.
Yeah.
And they misuse the power, and they are blinded at that time.
Yeah. So here Krishna is actually adjusting everything. Everything is being adjusted by Krishna back to the way it should be. That's actually what is happening here. That Krishna is putting Indra's pride down and he's raising the Vrindavan residents. He's showing how great his devotees are. He's showing that the love of his devotees is more powerful than the pride of Indra, than the power of Indra. The power of bhakti is more powerful than the power of Indra, which is not so powerful. Because the devotees have approached Krishna, Krishna is going to show that he's a better protector, he's a better provider than Indra. So as
yes.
Prabhu said, that puts Indra in his rightful position.
Yeah. So even Krishna doesn't have any other intention, but giving them lesson or teaching it's all for correction, So
Yes.
by correcting them, Krishna is protecting them actually.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he comments in this regard, and Prabhupada, he takes the same statement in English. But here Prabhupada writes, I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of this false prestige. So this false prestige, when someone has a lot of prestige, undue or unnecessarily is prestigious, too much pride, it's actually like a burden, but we don't realize what a burden it is when we have this kind of pride. Krishna is actually relieving him of this burden. In one place in Bhagavatam, it said that pride is like wearing a very heavy crown. It may have very nice decoration and jewels and ornaments and expensive gold, but it's a very heavy crown, and it's actually a burden to sit there and wear it. It may look very nice, it may make you look very prestigious, but it's nothing but a dead weight on your head. So Krishna wants to relieve Indra of this kind of pride.
Yeah, my understanding is anything which doesn't purify you, that's all burden. Anything.
And so what Krishna wants to do. He wants to bring Indra back, because all of the devas, they're all actually great devotees. They're all devotees of Krishna. They have something called sadbhava. They have a natural bhava. They have a natural inclination to worship Krishna. But from time to time, that bhava gets covered. It gets covered by prestige and opulence, and they forget. So Krishna is trying to restore that natural mood of loving relationship between him and Indra. Now, the poor residents of Vrindavan are still, one could say, suffering from all of this. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains there that if someone wants to enjoy a nice meal, they have to have hunger to enjoy a nice meal. Yeah. So similarly, if the residents of Vrindavan, they want to enjoy Krishna's protection, enjoy Krishna's association, then he has to put them in a situation of fear and a situation of uncertainty, so that they can then experience and appreciate the opposite. They can experience that pleasure and protection. Yeah. So he explains in this way. So for a moment there, in this anxiety, but let's see what happens next. Again, if anyone wishes to comment or question, please feel free to jump in. Don't wait for me to have to ask. Otherwise, Smita Mataji, you can continue.
Okay. Thinking in this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks up a mushroom from the ground. Thus he exhibited his transcendental pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Lord Krishna then addressed his devotees, "My dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vrindavan, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill, which I have just lifted. Do not be afraid of the hill and think that it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind. Therefore, I have lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you of your immediate distress. Be happy along with your animals underneath this great umbrella." Being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan entered beneath the great hill along their property and animals, and they all appeared to be safe.
So now Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastime. Yeah. And as we were saying previously, this is perhaps this is maybe one of Krishna's most famous pastimes. Everybody knows Krishna as Giridhari, the lifter of the Govardhan Hill, right? Krishna is very famous in that way. Sorry, my camera is not working for the moment. Yeah. So someone may ask, how does Krishna pick up a hill? He doesn't. In different avatars, Krishna has different mystical forms. But here, Krishna is still that two-armed little boy who plays a flute. How does he go ahead? Does he kind of wedge it from one side and go towards the middle, or what does Krishna do? How does he pick up the hill?
Does he pick up with his little finger?
Yes, he does. Yeah. Which finger does he Krishna?
The right hand. The little finger on the right hand.
According to Sanatana Goswami, Krishna picks up the hill with his little finger on his left hand, actually. So it said the left hand is the weaker hand, isn't it? And which is the weakest finger?
The little finger.
The pinky. Pinky finger. So Krishna picks up with his left hand the Govardhan Hill. Like a child picks up a mushroom, as he said here in the Bhagavatam. Like children can easily just pick up a mushroom, right? But this is a giant hill. So how does Krishna, like where do you pick it up from? Do you start on like one side and then the hill you just push it along, or how do you do it? It is a giant hill after all, isn't it? A mountain. So it
Hare
said that
Krishna.
Krishna would run into one of the caves. He would run into the cave. Krishna knew all the caves of Vrindavan because that's where he played. He ran in. They asked Krishna for help. And Krishna even runs away into a cave. But then Krishna comes, then the whole hill lifts up and they're like, whoa, So they all go with Krishna and they're all under the hill because they all go with him and they all find themselves to be under the hill. And then they have to call the animals and the calves, and will be described soon. So this is how Krishna picks up the hill with his pinky of his left hand. Okay. Okay. So Mataji, could you read on a little bit?
Okay. The inhabitants of Vrindavan and their animals remained there for 1 week, without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with a little finger on his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds and there was sunrise again, the strong wind stopped. At that time, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known now as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, said, "My dear coward men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables, because everything is ended. The inundation has gone down, along with the swelling waters of the river."
So then Krishna has lifted that hill, and Indra's had to kind of withdraw all his power. It's like an army general. They're full force attack, but when they realize they can't win, they bring back all of their soldiers, all of their artillery and military. So Indra's doing just that. So there's a little story, a side story, which I'd never heard before until just recently. But why does Krishna use a hill? There's an interesting story. Would you like to hear why Krishna uses a hill to smash Indra's pride? There is an interesting story behind, because Krishna could have done it anyway, right? Krishna could have just covered the sky with a bubble or whatever he wanted, anything.
I'm not quite sure, but is it because Krishna said that Govardhan Hill is more powerful or more useful than Indra, position of Govardhan Hill?
Yeah, there's so many reasons. That's one reason. That Krishna wanted to show that Govardhan, even Govardhan Hill is more powerful than Indra.
Provides all requirements.
Yeah. And actually there's another story I can tell. Because how did Govardhan come to, let's start with this one. How did Govardhan come to Vrindavan Dham? Does anyone know? There's a story about, because Govardhan is a personality who came to Vrindavan Dham to be part of this pastime. There's also a story about that too. Does anyone know that story? Because Govardhan is just, yes?
I'm not sure. Is it the same mountain which Hanuman carried, and then it fell? Or maybe thinking of something else.
There is another story like that. That's a slightly different story. We could go into that after too. There's actually so many stories. There's so many glories of Govardhan Hill. I was amazed. I just had a quick look, and you know, it's endless actually. The glories of Govardhan Hill past what we read in the Bhagavatam. So
I don't remember.
Hanuman has pastimes with Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill himself has pastimes of how he wants to come to Vrindavan. And then Indra has also this connection with the hills also in general. I'm just trying to see in my notes actually because I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I can't remember the full story, but essence of that, I knew that someone asked for Govardhan to take it to down, and Krishna said, Govardhan Hill said that if you have to carry all the time for, and where if you leave me on the floor, I'll be stuck there.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the characters and all that, but this is. And that's how it happened that that Brahmin or whoever was it wanted to rest or wanted to go to the number
That's the
one.
one.
And he had to leave it. He forgot about that and he left it, and that's it. And he said, "Now I can't come further with you." But full story, I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't actually find my notes, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would love to tell it. I will say as much as I can remember. So there is a rishi who has this desire to perform his, his austerities, his meditation, and generally the rishis, they go to the mountains, isn't it, to do their austerities, right? So this particular rishi, he was so powerful. He could even go up to the spiritual world. He could go to the heavenly planets. He could go anywhere, and he couldn't find a mountain which he felt was like, good for his hermitage. So he went all the way to the spiritual world, where there was a resident in the spiritual world, another Muni. I can't remember the names actually. I hadn't without my notes. And he goes there, and this Muni, he has many different mountains under his care. Okay, he's like a mountain shop. He goes in and he can pick a mountain. So there's all these different mountains, and he's checking them out. This one's too tall, this one's too small, this one's too big, this one's too short. But that one over there, I really like that one. And that Muni's like, no, don't take that one. That's my most dearly beloved, like my own son. That's Govardhan. That's Giriraj Govardhan. He's the king of all the mountains. He's my most beloved. And this rishi says, no, you told me I could come here and select a mountain which I like. And so, with a heavy heart, he gives away his Govardhan Lal, his most dear mountain. And Govardhan, he's feeling separation. And he says, on one condition, you can take me. That if you put me down, when you're carrying me, if you put me down, then I won't move from that place. I'll stay there. Yeah. So there's always with these stories, these mystical stories, there's always an external reason and there's an internal reason why these things happen. There's always a commentary of why. What is the mind of the personality behind it. So in the story itself, it's just given that he has to be put down. If once he's put down, then he can't be lifted again. So on that condition, this rishi thinks, okay, well, that's no problem, I've got so much spiritual power, I've got so much, Shakti, I can carry the mountain, no problem. And so off he goes on his journey. And he's passing through Bharatvarsha, which we know is India. And Govardhan notices that Krishna is going to come here and perform his pastime soon in Vrindavan. So by the potency, by the mystic power of the mountain, by Giriraj, his mystic power, he invokes the call of nature in this rishi, that he needs to go and use the bathroom all of a sudden. So no one can withstand that call of nature, the urge. So then he has to put down the mountain at this particular spot. And then the rishi goes and does, what his business is. And he comes back and he's ready to pick up the Govardhan again. But he can't move it, it's not budging. And Govardhan reminds him, remember when we were back in Vaikunta, we said that you could take me on this, I'll let you take me on this condition that if you put me down, then I can't be picked up. And so he's unable to lift him, and then Govardhan says, well, I'm going to stay here now. So the Rishi had to stay there and do his meditation and his austerities there. And that place was, of course, where Govardhan Hill is now. But the Rishi also cursed Govardhan Hill because, you know, he felt tricked. He said, every year you're going to shrink the size of a mustard seed. Mustard seed, very small. So actually Govardhan, Giriraj used to be a giant mountain. Giriraj, the king of the mountains. But today, I don't know if anybody has seen the videos we sent in our WhatsApp chat. You can see the form of Govardhan. There's a nice, beautiful video. It's about 10 minutes. And it's an aerial view of Govardhan. You can see how large Govardhan is now. What is it like? I think it's 50. I think it's like 16 miles to walk around. Yeah. So Govardhan has shrunk so much since the time of Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago. Yeah. And it continues to shrink and change shape. So this is the pastime of Govardhan coming to Vrindavan, or Braj Bhumi, Vrindavan on earth. Yeah. So I was going to tell another story about why Krishna particularly chose Govardhan. So I'd only heard this recently, that in the scriptures it's mentioned that one of the pastimes of Indra is actually to destroy mountains. This was like, you know, a hobby of Indra's. You know, like some people, they like, you know, fox hunting. Some people like deer hunting, this and that, right? People have these kind of habits or, you know, leisure activities. It's said in the scriptures that mountains, previously mountains used to have wings. They could move from place to place. Huh? It sounds quite unbelievable, isn't it? Right? The mountains that would, you know, manifest wings and then get up and go somewhere. But Indra, he used to be able to shoot down these mountains with his thunderbolt. He used to enjoy with his thunderbolt throwing at flying mountains. So what's the proof that, you know, mountains had wings? Because the proof is that now you cannot find a mountain with wings. That's the proof that mountains had wings, because Indra has shot down those mountains. Now we don't find any mountains with wings. That's the proof. Otherwise there would be mountains with wings still. So because of this, Indra had this pastime of shooting mountains. Then Krishna, he used a mountain. He thought, let me use a mountain to smash Indra's pride. Indra is always thinking, I can shoot down any mountain. And so in due course of time, because of his pride, so to such an extent, he thought he was greater than Krishna. Then Krishna brought his old arch enemy, the mountain, along to break his pride. And of course, in this paragraph, we're reading how Indra's receding. Now he's sending his full artillery and not able to combat the power of Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan. So there's a little backstory to why Krishna decides to defeat Indra with a hill, a mountain.
Amazing
Okay.
pastime, Prabhu. Thank you. Never heard this, especially the
Yeah.
visual.
I heard this from Amarendra Prabhu, you know. Have you heard of Amarendra Prabhu?
Yes,
He's
yeah.
a wonderful speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does wonderful Bhagavad Gita.
Mm.
So you can hear that pastime in its original glory from him. I'm just giving a snippet.
No, it's amazing. Wow.
Now, is there anyone else who would like to read? Oh, Shashi Mataji's volunteered. That'd be really nice to hear you.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
All the men loaded their valuables on carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhan Hill in exactly the same position it had been in before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan approached Krishna with feelings of love and embraced him with great ecstasy. The Gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him yogurt mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yashoda, Mother Roshni, Nanda, and Balarama, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feelings of affection, blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, different demigods from different planetary systems, such as Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, and Karanaloka, also began to show their complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of the earth and sounded different conch shells. There was beating of drums, and being inspired by godly feelings, residents of Gandharvaloka began to play on their tamburas to please the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and the animals, returned to his home. As usual, the Gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feelings, for they were chanting from their heart. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 25th chapter of Krishna, devastating rainfall in Vrindavan.
Wonderful. So now, after that devastating rainfall and Krishna having to perform miracles, what's happening in this paragraph?
Prabhu, is it that everybody is kind of celebrating his achievement and celebrating his homecoming as well?
Yeah, it's all turned into a festival, right? So they're all celebrations, and they're blessing him, and you know, and even all the other devas, all the other heavenly beings, they're taking part. It's a wonderful festival kind of atmosphere now. From showering blocks of ice and strong winds to showering flowers and blessings. Yeah, so it's all turned around, it's all worked out. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think they now recognize more power of Krishna, the Vrindavan Vasi, and their respect and love increased toward Krishna.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. So their love has increased, you see. So Krishna had two purposes in this pastime, isn't it? One was to show Indra that he's not the boss, and one was to reciprocate with the pure love of the residents of Vrindavan. And their love has increased so much more. Is there anything else from this paragraph which you could take, which was of interest or inspiration?
They mentioned about the gopis. They mentioned about the gopis offering yogurt mixed with tears. So that's quite intense. And then Krishna accepting that as well.
Yeah, they were so affectionate to Krishna, isn't it? That they wanted to offer him yogurt, but because of they were giving it with so much affection, as they were handing it over, their tears were falling into the yogurt, and they're all standing there, you know, with the offerings, and mixed with their love, their loving tears, hot tears, isn't it? And is that right? When the happy tears of happiness is like considered to be hot tears.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so I heard like the term, is it Chapanbhog or the 56 varieties? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Chapanbhog? I
Yes,
heard that
Chapan.
came from last time. Like some say it came from this pastime because Krishna held the mountain up for like 7 days, and his mum Yashoda used to serve him like eight times a day, and then when at the end of it she's like, oh, he's gone really thin and skinny, and she decided to make up for the whole week, so then it was like 8 times 7, so that's like Chapanbhog. So that's where it may
Yeah,
have
that's
come
right.
from.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. So we're all familiar with that term, isn't it? Chapanbhog. Yeah. Maybe from Lord Jagannath, because Lord Jagannath is given Chapanbhog as well. But the origin is from this Govardhan Leela. Because how long was Krishna holding up the hill for?
7 days.
7 days.
7 days, yeah. So Krishna missed 7 days of food, apparently. So as Preeti said, that Mother Yashoda, thinking in that way, she gave him 7 days worth of food in one. 8 meals a day Krishna has, and that makes Chapanbhog. So yeah. So this was actually, since you mentioned that it was 7 days the hill was lifted up for, it's not actually mentioned in this this reading of Bhagavatam, but Krishna did hold the hill for 7 days. So after performing the whole Govardhan Puja and the Parikrama, then they had the day when Indra sent the rain. Yeah, that was on the day after the Govardhan, the Ankot day. So we have Diwali, then we have Ankot, then we have the next day when Krishna starts to hold up the hill. Yeah, for 7 days after the Ankot, Krishna holds up the hill. And it's during those 7 days that the blessed residents of Vrindavan are with Krishna constantly. He said that those 7 days are like a full festival in themselves, a festival for the eyes, because they can see Krishna at every moment. So this was another reason why Krishna picked up the Govardhan hill, because all of the residents of Vrindavan could only see Krishna at different times of day. Yeah. When did the Gopas, when did they see Krishna? All his friends. When did the Krishna's friends spend time with him? Does anyone know? From our previous readings?
So during the day when they went with the calves and cows.
Yes, Mataji, yes. So during the daylight hours, the boys would spend time with Krishna. And how about the girls, the Braja Gopis? When did they spend time with Krishna?
They used to go and meet them.
At night?
At night.
Yeah.
So Krishna is a busy boy. He's got a full diary, full schedule. All day with the boys, all night with the girls. Huh? So Krishna, when does he ever sleep? But still, it wasn't enough for them. They said that the boys, they used to pray to the moon god. And the girls, they used to pray to the sun god. It's famous that Surya Kund is where the Gopis, they would perform their vratas. Because they wanted to have more association with Krishna. And similarly, the boys, they would pray to the moon god. Yeah. So they would pray in such a way that, don't rise so early in the morning. Please, son, don't rise so early in the morning. Because when you rise, our pastimes with Krishna stop. And the boys would pray to the moon god that, please don't rise so early in the evening. As soon as you rise, Krishna has to go home and we have to finish our fun with him. So knowing this, being under the hill for 7 days and 7 nights, everyone could be with Krishna 24 hours, 24/7. And so their desires were fulfilled in that way too.
So other time when Gopas used to be with Krishna during the day light, and they used to play and doing everything. So they used to get very tired. So at night time they were sleeping fast sleep, and the Gopis were leaving them home and be with Krishna.
Yes.
And Krishna doesn't need sleep, does he?
And Krishna, he has to run back in the morning, because when
Yeah.
Mother Yashoda comes in the room, she has to see that Krishna is still lying in the bed. So
To sleep.
yeah, so then she has to come in and wake up Krishna in the morning. And then Krishna, rubs his eyes and opens his eyes sweetly. Is it morning now? Huh? And then here goes another day of adventures and activities.
So before Gopas get up in the morning, all Gopis are already back home. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to rush home. So under the hill, nobody knew if it was day, if it was night. All they could see was the, brilliant, effulgent face of Krishna that was keeping everyone alive and inspired. Then even under the hill, there were different pastimes. That when Krishna was holding the hill on his pinky, everyone was reciprocating with him in their various different loving moods. Yeah, because they all had their own character, their own personalities. Yeah. And I think we discussed some of this a little bit in our previous meetings. I can't remember whether we did or not. Do you remember how the different devotees, they responded with Krishna under the hill? How did the boys, how did they feel like, Krishna was lifting this hill with his little finger? They all had their sticks, you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would lift. They would like use their sticks, and they'd say, "Krishna, you're not doing all the work here. We are holding up too." Yeah.
Yeah. So as their
They're
friends,
trying.
as their equals, they would also hold up their sticks and be part of it all, isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So they thought Krishna was just like them. They actually thought that they were doing all of the lifting, holding their sticks, and you can see that in the paintings as well. That all of the Gopas, they've got their sticks. Yeah. Lattas. Is it called lotas? Isn't it? The stick. And they're holding those coward sticks up. And then how about the Gopis? They had a different take on this.
I heard that like Krishna would try to avoid looking in Radharani's direction because he would lose his balance if he saw her looking at like sideways glance or anything. And I think Balaram or somebody would have a giggle about it because they knew what was going on, why he was losing balance.
That's right. So Krishna was trying to, impress upon the Gopis. And in particular, Srimati Radharani would take notice. And in doing so, Krishna would then feel embarrassed, right? Because his brother's standing next to him, Balaram. So Balaram's not supposed to know about Krishna's loving affairs with the Gopis. And so in feeling embarrassed, Krishna would start to rock the hill, which they're all standing underneath. So the hill would tremor like this, and everyone would become afraid. And then the Gopas would push their sticks up more, Krishna, we're here to help you. So the whole thing was like, lots of things are going on at once. And how was Mother Yashoda and the motherly Gopis feeling as this was all going on? So they were feeling that, Krishna, how can you hold this hill? Your arm must be so tired. Just let go for a moment. Put your hand down, take a rest. And they were trying to pass food up to Krishna. you know, feeding from the side, and so many different things were going on for 7 days with Krishna. So many different pastimes were happening, and Krishna was able to reciprocate with everyone at the same time. You know, so one person, Krishna's one personality, but he was reciprocating with everyone at the same time as holding a hill. So it wasn't that he was just holding this hill effortlessly, but he was also having so many pastimes too, non-stop for 7 days. Had to keep them entertained somehow, right? So this is Vrindavan. Amazing.
I
Is anyone
heard
else?
that he.
Yes.
I heard that he didn't actually have the hill on his left pinky. It was just even slightly tiny bit above his left pinky. It was almost like hovering. I've heard that somewhere, but I don't know where. Yeah.
Yes, by the potency of Krishna's yoga maya, Govardhan hill was empowered to stay up on his own as well. So that's why actually, because of yoga maya, Govardhan hill was so ecstatic. He was so, you know, because the name Govardhan, it means one who nourishes the land and the cow and the senses. So that was his whole mood. Govardhan had his own personality, his own mood as well. And he was so happy because he was like taking care of everyone. That's just what he loved to do, you know? It's just like, he was such a loving personality, Govardhan. You can't believe, he just loved serving all the residents of Vrindavan the most. And so like, this was his, you know, shining moment that he could do that. And he was so happy that he just decided to, you know, float above a little bit more, you know? They say, you know, when you're really happy, have a really like light step. So, you know, he was just like almost practically floating on his own by his, you know, by his joy. And at the same time, on the flip side, above, Indra's throwing all these thunderbolts and hurling, you know, ice and snow and you know, all this, you know, lightning. But Govardhan is so happy that all of this festivities are happening underneath, that he's just bearing the brunt of it. He doesn't mind. He's protected. He's so happy that all of that turmoil that's happening above is just like insignificant to him. So that's another aspect of the pastime. So thanks for bringing that up as well, Preeti. Okay, so there are actually, you know, so many things that can be said about the Govardhan Leela. It's really extraordinary. But we're going to move on now. And this Leela concludes in the next chapter. So there's one more chapter here, but then after this, then there's the prayers of Indra. Okay. So then so that's when the Govardhan Leela actually finishes, after the prayers of Indra. So we'll go on to chapter number 26 now. We've got 10 minutes left. So Shashi Mataji, would you like to continue reading?
Yeah. Is it Wonderful Krishna?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was flicking through the pages. So, Wonderful Krishna. Without understanding the intricacies of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and without knowing his uncommon spiritual opulence, the innocent cowherd boys and men on Vrindavan began to discuss these wonderful activities which surpass the activities of all men. Would you like me to continue?
Yes, please.
One of them said, "My dear friends, considering his wonderful activities, how is it possible that such an uncommon boy would come and live with us in Vrindavan? It is really not possible. Just imagine, he is now only 7 years old. How is it possible for him to lift Govinda Hill in one hand and hold it up just as the king of elephants holds a lotus flower? To lift a lotus flower is a most insignificant thing for an elephant, and similarly, Krishna lifted Govinda hill without exertion. When he was simply a small baby and could not even see properly, he killed the great demon Uttana. While sucking her breast, he also sucked out her life air. Krishna killed the Uttana demon exactly as the external time kills a living creature in due course. When he was only 3 months old, he was sleeping underneath a hand-driven cart, being hungry for his mother's breast. He began to cry and throw his legs upwards, and from the kicking of his small feet, the cart immediately broke apart and fell to pieces. When he was only 1 year old, he was carried away by the Trinavata demon as a whirlwind, and although he was taken very high in the sky, he simply hung onto the neck of the demon and forced him to fall from the sky and immediately die. Once his mother, being disturbed by his stealing butter, tied him to a wooden mortar, and the child pulled it towards a pair of trees known as Yamla Arjuna and caused them to fall. Once when he was engaged in tending the calves in the forest, along with his elder brother Balaram, a demon called Bakasura appeared, and Krishna at once bifurcated the demon's beak. When the demon known as Vatsara entered among the calves tended by Krishna with a desire to kill him, he immediately detected the demon, killed him, and threw him into a tree. When Krishna, along with his brother Balarama, entered the Talavana forest, the demon known as Dhenukasura, in the shape of an ass, attacked them and was immediately killed by Balaram, who caught his hind legs and threw him into a palm tree. Although the Dhenukasura demon was assisted by his cohorts, also in the shape of asses, all were killed, and all were killed in the Talavana forest, and then open for the use of the animals and inhabitants of Vrindavana. When Pralambasura entered amongst Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, Krishna caused him to be killed by Balarama. Therefore, Krishna saved his friends and cows from a severe forest fire, and he characterized the Kaliya serpent in the lake of the Yamuna river and forced him to leave the vicinity of the Yamuna. He thereby made the water of the Yamuna poisonless.
Right. I'm going to hand it over to you all now, because I'm sure you have something to share about this paragraph. So what thoughts do you have? And you read that very well, Shashi Mataji. Lots of names in there, in Sanskrit words.
Thank you. It's basically recapping all his pastimes and all his achievements and all the demons, etc., that he conquered.
Yeah, it is. It's really wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hence the title of the chapter. Wonderful Krishna. Any thoughts that you all have? So who is this? Why is this coming up at this point in time? Why do you think this is coming up right now? After Krishna's lifted the Govardhan hill? Just to anybody who'd like to share.
Is it Hare Krishna? I could be wrong, but is it just to show that the position of Krishna and how powerful he is?
Yeah, they're discussing how powerful Krishna is and like what's his position.
Mm.
Yeah, and who's discussing this?
The elder cowherd men,
That's right. Okay.
cowherd boys and men.
Yeah, so these cowherd men have approached Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, and he's saying, do you remember the time that Krishna did this? Do you remember the time he did that? Do you remember the time he did this and that and that and that and that and that? So there's, I think I counted, there's like 11 different pastimes they've just recalled, you know. They're having a meeting with him. Yeah. So, you know, in the workplace, you have, you know, you may have a meeting when, you know, things are going off course. Yeah. So Krishna's been doing all of these mystical things. And they're saying that he's what, 7 years old now? Only 7 years old. For 7 years, Krishna's been doing all these wonderful mystical things. But after the picking up the Govardhan hill, that's it. Nanda Maharaj, knock knock. What's going on? We want to have a meeting with you about your son. Right? So what things did Krishna do which they brought up? Just to summarize. If you all want to shout out what things you read here. If you could just name the, you know, the activity in one or two words. Okay, what things did Krishna do?
Demons like Putna and
Putana, that's one, yeah. Okay. Another one?
Denakashura.
Dhenukasura, yes. Another one. Someone else?
Srinavarta.
Srinavarta, yeah. Okay.
Kalia.
Kaliya snake, yeah. Another one.
Dhenukasura.
Yeah, that one was said. Dhenukasura.
Pralambasura.
Pralambasura, yeah.
Yes, Yamala and Arjuna, they were the trees, isn't it? Yamala and
Yes.
Arjuna is the trees.
The Damodar pastime, yeah. Krishna knocked over the two giant trees.
Mhm.
Okay. Bakasura as well. Bakasura was a bird. He was a demon in the disguise of a what kind of bird was it? A stork, you know, stork bird. So Krishna bifurcated him. He tore his beak apart. Sounds horrific. Okay. Then there's Vatsasura. Krishna came as a calf. The demon came as a calf. There was a forest fire. Sorry.
The hand-driven cart, there was a demon in there as well.
Yes,
They don't
that's
know
right.
that.
Shakatasura, the ghost, hid in the cart. Yeah. So many 11 different ones that I counted anyway. Different pastimes which they're recalling. So we're up to time, but I just thought this is actually a really wonderful chapter. If you want a summary, if you want a glimpse, if you want to share Krishna's pastimes with others, you know, if you have friends who are like, what do you do every Tuesday, you know, for hours, every Tuesday evening, I can't call you, I can't speak to you. What are you doing? Oh yeah, just take this chapter and hand it over, and they'll get an idea of what we're reading about. Yeah, this is a nice summary of the 10th canto of this chapter, isn't it? The Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Krishna book. So, any final thoughts or reflections on what we've read this evening? Questions? Any points which really stood out for you? Something that was really new or nice?
I didn't know that Govardhan Hill was like a personality.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Something And the story you said about the different hills, you know,
In the hill shop.
that really stood out for me.
Yeah, Govardhan Hill has a great personality, huh? Yeah, even he has a personality of his own. He has his own desires, his own way of serving Krishna. What's interesting about Govardhan Hill is that his position is very unique. And maybe we can end on this. Thank you for bringing that up, Smita Mataji. So is Govardhan Hill Krishna, or is Govardhan Hill a devotee? Who thinks that Govardhan Hill is Krishna? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, many of us think Krishna is Govardhan Hill. How many think that Govardhan Hill is a devotee of Krishna? Yeah, I see a few hands up.
You've got your hand up.
I've got my hand up, yeah.
So
I think.
Yeah.
So it's almost half and half. I didn't count, but it's almost half and half. So who is Govardhan Hill? Huh? Is he Krishna? Is he not Krishna?
Is he non-different to Krishna?
Is he non-different to Krishna?
I thought he was Krishna. He's Krishna because of we worship him even in the temple. In place of Krishna. Yeah.
That's right. We do.
Yeah, and also it's mentioned as well, isn't it, when we read that worshipping Govardhan as kind of a similarity. They were showing that is same as worshipping Krishna. So
worshipping Govardhan is non-different from worshipping Krishna. That's definitely true. Lord Chaitanya says that. Yeah. Krishna himself says that. Yeah.
He is a provider of everything to all the living entities. So that way you consider he is a Krishna.
Because he can provide everything for everyone in Vrindavan. When Krishna left Vrindavan, everyone else didn't want to leave. They're like, why do you want to leave Vrindavan? Govardhan's here. Huh? Govardhan's giving us Krishna, you can go. But Govardhan's here. Huh? So yeah. But on the other hand, is he not a devotee as well? The Gopis, they call Govardhan Hill Haridas Avarya, the greatest of all the devotees. Govardhan, his mood is to serve Krishna and the devotees. So I don't know. I've never heard the actual answer to that. But Govardhan, he's very special in that way. He's as good as Krishna. He is non-different from Krishna. He is Krishna, but at the same time, he's Krishna's devotee. He's got his own personality. Huh? He's a separate form from Krishna. There's not two Krishnas, not two supreme personalities of Godhead in Vrindavan. So in that way, he has his own personality, his own servitude as well. So yeah, very unique personality.
Which is like part and parcel of Krishna, but obviously a very in a very bigger quantity or quality, and because Govardhan Hill has they have their own pastimes as well, and I'm not sure if it's one of them where they were trying to compete with another mountain and something to do with pride, and that's got cursed, and so yeah, not quite Krishna, but there are many things where they're saying it's not Krishna, but it's no different from Krishna. Like you go to Vrindavan, you hug a rock, and it's like you're hugging Krishna. So, but yeah, at the same time, how you say, how we've mentioned here, it could be a devotee of Krishna as well.
Mm. So yeah, very interesting personality. He almost has his own tattva, his own identity, his own standing. Govardhan, he's very special. So we're up to time now. So I hope you enjoyed the discussions. It's always nice to hear all of your reflections and questions. It adds to the meeting and the mood of the meeting. It's always nice to hear from everybody. So thank you all very much for participating. And we'll have our Gauranga book meeting on Thursday I've now received the Gauranga books in the post from India. They came today. So me and Janava,
Yay.
we've been busy this afternoon packing all the books for those of you who ordered. So just a polite reminder, if you haven't yet paid, then please do so. I know some of you made certain arrangements with me, which is also good. So then we can send the books out ASAP. Aiming to send them out tomorrow. So they'll be on the way. Now we're going to have our japa time. So I hope you can see to Amu Mataji for hosting us and Anisha. So yeah, I really enjoy these last few weeks with you. I might have mentioned previously, Govardhan Leela is like my personal favorite. I really enjoy reading it. So it's been really wonderful for me, especially. If you have any comments or questions or feedback for me, I'd love to hear your feedback on how you think the meetings are going, or if you think we can improve anything, please let me know. We can try and take that on board. So what else is there to say? Okay, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hope to see you on Thursday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Everybody.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.